You'll always be a nobody, my uncle spat last Thanksgiving. Unaware, I, Lydia Harper, built Nexus Analytics, a data analytics consulting powerhouse ruling the Pacific Northwest. Frost coated my boots outside my aunt's Seattle ranch house in 2023. But I stood ready to crush their scorn. My 7-year empire, born from abandoning a safe statistician job at Crawford & Sons, set to expose their blindness. The string lights blinked indifferently as I remembered last year's Thanksgiving dinner. Are you still freelancing? My cousin Evelyn asked, swirling her wine, her MBA from Stanford always somehow front and center. Uncle Charles knows someone hiring for admin support at Tableau, my mom added helpfully, not realizing Tableau had just paid my firm over $5 million, 0 cents, to help restructure their regional business intelligence division. My uncle, Charles Harper, spent 20 years at Harper Data Systems, a company started by his father. He climbed to VP while his brother, my dad, drifted between roles. The resentment between them shaped everything about our family gatherings. Success means loyalty, Uncle Charles always declared, nodding at Evelyn and her textbook career path. Business degree, data analytics, industry job, aggressive networking. I chose in my own way. After double majoring in mathematics and business administration, I spent 5 years at Crawford & Sons. While others played office politics, I built something real. My first solo client was a tiny machine learning company in Bellevue. Within 6 months, they'd doubled their output. When I finally resigned, my mother cried, "You're walking away from a future?" She didn't know I was walking into one, so I built Nexus Analytics quietly, strategically. My name appeared on the books, just results and influence. Tonight, they'd finally learn who really owned the golden deal they'd spent all year bragging about. To my family, I was still just Lydia, the wayward dreamer renting a co-working space downtown. They didn't know that co-working space was a decoy. My actual headquarters took up the top 3 floors of Seattle's premier high-rise, overlooking Puget Sound. But since no one in my family ever bothered to visit, the illusion remained intact. I took a breath and rang the doorbell. My aunt opened it, her face lighting up before settling into the familiar wrinkle of concern. "Lead, sweetie. We weren't sure you'd make it." She hugged me quickly, then whispered, "Your Uncle Charles is here with a few investors. Maybe don't bring up your little business tonight." Inside the house buzzed with Thanksgiving warmth, string lights, chatter, cater. Data analytics executives mingled with family, and of course, Evelyn was holding court by the fireplace, flashing her engagement ring to anyone who'd listen. Her fiancé Owen, now a junior VP at Harper Data Systems, stood nearby, soaking in every compliment. "Lydia," my uncle called from the bar. He was already tipsy. "Come meet Alan Brooks from DataCore. They're hiring data." My team was finalizing their $150 million, 0 cents transition into AI-driven analytics assets, but to them, I was just another Harper who never quite lived up to the name. Before I could answer, Uncle Charles swept in, all charisma and arrogance, trailing 2 suited board members. My uncle's loud voice boomed, "These merger talks with Apex Insights are killing me." I stiffened slightly. Apex Insights was my company. The shell I'd formed precisely to bait Harper Data Systems into over-leveraging. "You know," my uncle mused, "if we could just get a meeting with Nexus Analytics, this merger might actually move forward." "Too bad their CEO won't take meetings," one of the board members added. I sipped my cider to hide the smirk tugging at my lips. They didn't know she was already in the room. "Not yet," Uncle Charles growled. "But they'll have to meet with us eventually. We're Harper Data Systems after all." I couldn't help myself. Maybe they're not impressed by the name anymore. The room fell silent. My uncle's drink froze halfway to his lips. My mother's eyes widened. My father's jaw clenched. "Lydia," he said sharply, but I didn't stop. "From what I hear, Harper's market share has shrunk. The merger with Apex Insights isn't a bold expansion. It's a lifeline." The words landed like a slap. Years of being dismissed, of being the afterthought at family dinners, had finally reached a boiling point. Uncle Charles turned a deep shade of crimson. "How dare you? What would you possibly know about our business?" My father grabbed my elbow and pulled me toward the kitchen. Now, once inside, his voice dropped to a hiss. "Have you lost your mind? You embarrassed me in front of Charles and the board." "I was just... You've always been reckless," he snapped, "with your little consulting hobby. Pretending you know real business? The door creaked open. Evelyn leaned against the frame, her fiancé Owen just behind her. Maybe she should go, she said with fake concern. We don't want to give Uncle Charles more stress. The merger matters more than her feelings. My father didn't hesitate. She's right, get out. We don't need some low-level consultant spreading rumors. I looked at them. My father's disappointment, Evelyn's smug grin, my mother silent as always. 6 years of hiding everything I'd built. All for this. Fine, I said softly, grabbing my coat. But remember this moment. Tomorrow's going to be enlightening. Owen scoffed. What could you possibly do? I smiled, thinking of the signed merger documents waiting on my desk, bearing the signature of LH Summit, CEO of Nexus Analytics. Happy Thanksgiving, I said, stepping into the cold moonlit night. The next morning I walked into Nexus before sunrise. The city was quiet, but our offices were already buzzing. Good morning, Miss Sum, Clara said as she handed me a fresh espresso. Only 3 people knew Lydia Harper and LH Summit were the same person, and today that secret was about to shatter. If you've ever been underestimated by the people who should have known you best, hit subscribe because the next part of this story proves just how powerful quiet success can be. When it finally speaks, the Harper Data Systems delegation is scheduled for 9:00 a.m., Clara said, stepping in with her tablet. Your uncle has called 4 times, trying to push it earlier. I smiled, settling into my seat. The entire floor was built to command attention. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing the skyline, original sculptures, soft lighting, and at the center, my desk carved from reclaimed longleaf pine. A quiet nod to power with roots. This was my world, not my aunt's kitchen, not their dinner tables. Here, no one told me I didn't understand business. How many are coming? I asked, flipping through the Apex Insights merger files. 8, Clara replied. Charles Harper, 4 board members, their interim CEO. She paused. Your father, Evelyn, and her fiancé. Of course, Evelyn had just been promoted to head of strategic growth, another shameless title gifted for loyalty, not merit. I inhaled deeply, still hearing my father's voice from the night before. Clara understood and nodded. Call Nathan at Apex Insights, I said. Tell him to be ready. Nathan ran my shell company. He knew exactly what part to play today. At 8:45, Clara's voice returned through the intercom. They've arrived early, as expected. Let them wait 15 minutes. In that quiet time, I centered myself. No more masks. No more shrinking. At precisely 9:11 o'clock, I saw their outlines through the frosted glass. My uncle pacing, my father stern, Evelyn whispering to Owen, all silent. Uncle Charles stood. Excuse me, where's LH Summit? We're here to meet with Nexus CEO. I walked calmly to the head of the table. You are, I said. LH Summit, Lydia Harper, CEO of Nexus Analytics. Faces turned pale. This can't be, my father muttered. She's bluffing, Evelyn snapped. Sit down, I said coldly, and she did. Clara, I said, distribute the merger packages. As the folders hit the merger packages. As the folders hit the merger packages. As the mergers if to be merger packages. Bentley's head summit. Where's Monoler had cost you this? In a late summit, Lydia first it said merger packages. As the folders hit term merger packages. As the folders hit the merger packages. This time, netter missed a son again. But Lydia's only 7 up. A Harper Data Systems delegation is scheduled for 9:00 IA, Clara said, stepping in with her tablet. Your uncle has called 4 times, trying to push it earlier. I smiled, settling into my seat. The entire floor was built to command attention. Lord tolling windows showcasing the skyline, original sculptures, soft lighting, and at the center, my desk carved from reclaimed longleaf pine, a quiet nod to power with roots. This was my world. Not my aunt's kitchen, now their dinner tables. Here, no one told me, I asked, flipping through the Apex Insights merger files. 8, Clara replied. Charles Harper, 4 board members, their interim CEO, she paused. Your father, Ellen, and her fiancé, Orth. Ellen had just been promoted to head of strategic growth, another shameless title gifted for loyalty, not merit. I inhaled deeply, still hearing my father's voice from the night before. Clara understood. Call Nathan at Apex Insights, I said. Tell him to be ready. Nathan ran my shell company. He knew exactly what part to play today. At 8:45, Clara's voice returned through the intercom. They've arrived early, as expected. Let them wait 15 minutes. In that quiet time, I centered myself. No more masks. No more shrinking. At precisely 9:00, I saw their outlines through the frosted glass. My uncle pacing, my father stern, Evelyn whispering to Owen. I adjusted my blazer, touched up my lipstick, and opened the door. We're here to meet with Nexus CEO. I walked calmly to the head of the table. You are? I said. Hay Summit. Lydia Harper, CEO of Nexus Analytics. Faces turned pale. This can't be, my father muttered. She's bluffing, Evelyn snapped. Sit down, I said coolly. And she did. Inside the folders were detailed analyses of Harper Data Systems' financial standing, market weaknesses, and my proposed merger terms. As you'll see, I began smoothly, Harper's position is more fragile than anyone here realizes. Your modernization efforts failed. You've burned through capital reserves. I clicked the remote. Graphs and charts lit up across the conference room. Your market share has dropped by 40% in the past 4 years. Without this merger, you're 8 months from collapse. Uncle Charles' face darkened to maroon. How dare you? These figures. This is confidential. Nothing is confidential for me, I replied. Nexus has been tracking Harper Data Systems for years. I let the next truth drop. We also own large portions of your debt through holding companies. You never connected to us. An Apex Insights, that's my shell company. Owen laughed, nervous. That's not possible. Apex Insights is international. It is, but it's mine. I built it for one purpose, to force this moment. Panic began to ripple. Every deadline you missed, every clause in every agreement, you were playing against me. My father finally spoke. Why would you do this? I looked him in the eyes. Because no one at this table ever believed I belonged here. Last night you kicked me out for speaking up. Today you listen. I pressed the button again. Charts turned to action items. This merger will happen, but on my terms. First, the entire board will resign. This is madness, Uncle Charles slammed the table. Then, Harper Data Systems collapses. Your call. The room erupted. Uncle Charles shouted, Legal threats! Evelyn cried. The board whispered furiously. My father stared like he was seeing me for the first time. Eventually, silence returned. What are your terms? Charles asked at last. Restructuring, fresh leadership, and the end of nepotism. Evelyn and Owen? He asked. Dad! Stop her! But he didn't. He couldn't, and he knew it. As they signed the final agreements, my father remained seated, eyes full of regret. Lee, he started. You should go, I said quietly. Clara will show you out. He paused. I was wrong about you. Yes, I replied. You were. You were, I said. Happy Thanksgiving. After they left, I stood at the window, watching the Seattle skyline glow as twilight settled over the city. Clara stepped in quietly, handing me a glass of champagne. Though something tells me this isn't the end, she was right. This wasn't the finish line. It was the first mile. My family now knew who I really was, but they still didn't understand what I was capable of. Tomorrow would bring new headlines, new restructuring hurdles, and the media firestorm. But tonight, I allowed myself one breath of satisfaction. The woman they dismissed from Thanksgiving dinner now controlled the fate of Harper Data Systems. Revenge didn't need to be loud. It only needed to be precise. I raised my glass toward the darkened window. Happy Thanksgiving, I whispered. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. News of my dual identity exploded across business media. Mystery CEO Summit unmasked. A multi-billion-dollar secret hidden plain sight. Every outlet wanted the story. Sitting in my office, I scrolled through yet another headline. Lydia Harper, the consultant who outsmarted her legacy. My phone buzzed. Another message from Evelyn, the 8th this week. I deleted it unread. Imix, Clara said, entering. The transition team is ready for final sign-off on the Harper Data Systems restructure. The past month had devastated my family. Uncle Charles resigned, trying unsuccessfully to sue. Our legal team buried him in evidence of mismanagement. My father retired early. He couldn't face reporting to his daughter. Evelyn and Owen were the loudest. They painted me as vindictive on social media, but it backfired when journalists exposed the damage their decisions had caused. Then Clara returned, voice softer. "Your mother's downstairs. She wants to see you." I froze. My mother hadn't reached out once since the takeover. "Send her up." Few minutes later, she stepped inside, visibly out of place in this space of glass and steel. She looked around, stunned. "Lydia," she whispered nervously, twisting her hands. "This is quite an office," my mother said quietly. "What do you want, Mom?" She sank into one of the guest chairs, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. "Your father's not well. The stress, everything. It's taken a toll. Evelyn's engagement ended. Owen walked out after losing his role. The family's unraveling." I kept my voice steady. "That's unfortunate, but business decisions aren't built on sentiment. Harper Data Systems is already showing signs of recovery." "I'm not here about the company," she whispered. "I'm here to understand. You worked so hard. We thought you were struggling. Why didn't you tell us?" I let out a dry laugh. "Tell you? Every success was ignored. When I made my first $2 million, 0 cents, you were celebrating Evelyn's promotion. When I bought my first firm, you told me to apply for entry-level admin. We were trying to help. No, you were trying to force me into your box." Tears welled in her eyes. "We were wrong. But you chose not to see me," I said quietly. "Can't we fix this?" "Harper Data Systems will be fixed," I replied. "But the family, that's not my priority. Clara will show you out." As I raised my pen to sign, I heard my grandmother's voice in memory, something she once told me before she passed. "Success isn't about proving others wrong, Lydia. It's about proving yourself right." And I had eyes the final document. 8 months later, Harper Data Systems' valuation had doubled under its new leadership. Messages flooded in from family, some furious, others suddenly sentimental. I replied to none until one message caught my eye. Isabel Harper, Uncle Charles' youngest, the only one who'd never mocked me. "I don't want anything. Just wanted to say you inspired me. Watching you claim your power gave me the courage to try. I'm starting something of my own." For the first time in months, I smiled at a family message. "Nora," I called, "schedule a lunch with Isabel Harper and look into her startup." Clara tilted her head. "Ass family?" "No," I said. "As an investor interested in real potential, if you were Lydia, with a family that doubted you for 7 years, would you back Isabel's venture or let the past close the door? How would you define your legacy?"